Okie dokie, welcome to my lesson today, my revision lesson, which is all about material enhancement in regards to timbers. And we're just going to look at a couple specific products, which I'm going to call case studies, to help us really understand and embed how are timbers actually enhanced. So as a little starter, to get our minds moving, thinking in the same direction, I would like you to list all the different ways that materials can be enhanced. So although we're going to discuss timbers specifically, can you think of how a metal can be enhanced, or maybe a polymer? Just take a couple minutes, maybe jot some ideas down, or just think to yourself. Okie dokie. So I've got a couple thoughts here. These aren't all of them, these are just some of them. So I thought about additives, which we can add to different polymers, lamination, which we can do for timbers, work hardening, annealing, case hardening, galvanizing. These are all things that can be added or done to metals to make them more enhanced, as well as preservatives, which can be added to both polymers and timber-based materials. So there's quite a big list there, but like I said, we're going to be focusing on timbers for this lesson. So, to help us better understand why materials are enhanced, we're going to look at several different products and investigate what preservatives may have been added, but most importantly, why. But first of all, why do we actually enhance materials? What does it actually help us to improve? Have a little think, maybe jot an idea down, talk to people if they're around you, and then come back to the video. Two main reasons really. We do it to improve the aesthetics, so the appearance of what the material might look like, as well as the function. So maybe enhancing or making the natural properties of that material even better, even stronger. So this is our first case study, outdoor decking. And the material used is timber, but that's a bit too vague. So what timber do you think would be used for outdoor decking? Have a little think, pause the video, or just wait for me to give you the answer in roughly 3 seconds. The answer is, of course, larch. Most people would go immediately to the idea of a hardwood, such as mahogany or teak. The reason being, obviously, because it actually looks like hardwood. It's quite rich in colour, and also hardwood is far more aesthetically pleasing. However, it is far more expensive, which is why we often use softwoods, which are cheaper or cheaper compared to hardwoods, more readily available, which we can then add some kind of colouring to make them appear like hardwood. So the answer here is larch. A large timber would be used for outdoor decking. But here's an even bigger question, a better question. How would the properties of larch be enhanced? What do you think has been added to that timber in order to make it function better, as well as look prettier, look more aesthetically pleasing? The answer, of course, is preservatives. So preservatives are something that are added to the timber before it's used to manufacture a product. And they are used to help protect the timber or the wood from fungal and insect attacks, as well as enhance the aesthetics with pigments, so with those deep, rich colours to make them actually appear like hardwoods. Preservatives are vital for outdoor products and are often treated with a copper-based preservative because it is a natural occurring mineral with excellent fungicidal properties. Preservatives can also include fire retardants, which are more commonly used for outdoor cladding to help protect a property from fire spreading. Because that's a really big misconception in regards to fire retardants. People think that if it's fire retardant, that means it's completely fireproof, fire resistant, but it's not. A fire retardant can help to slow down the spread of a fire and help mitigate the likelihood of it actually spreading further. Sometimes, if there's not much oxygen, it can help to put a fire out completely, because it will just burn out and wear away, but not all the time. So fire retardant doesn't make something fireproof, it helps to make it fire resistant. I've got a little bit of a diagram here to show you how these preservatives are actually added. So this is a pressure treatment, or it's also known as tannalizing. And what I'll do, there's 5 diagrams in total, and I'll just talk you through each one. So number 1 here. Timber loaded into a treatment vessel, initial vacuum applied, and the timber cells are evacuated of air, vacuum held. So all that means is the timber is put into a giant cylindrical tank, massive, and the initial vacuum will help to draw out the air from within inside the timber cells, and then it's held like that in position. So essentially, it's like the timber is actually empty of air. The cylinder flooded under vacuum with next generation Tannolith, which is a brand of preservative, plus Tannatone if required, which is a brand of pigment. So basically here the cylinder is then flooded with the preservative, but still under that vacuum. Three, hydraulic pressure applied, forcing the preservative deep into the structure of the timber. So now pressure is applied so that because there's no air, the preservative actually has places to go within the cells of the timber. So that's how it impregnates into those cells and then stays there for dear life. 4, final vacuum extracts excess preservative solution, which is pumped back into storage. So it just helps it to drain of any excess. And then 5, low pressure inside timber draws in surface solution when vented to atmosphere. Treated timber is left to dry. So this just helps for any final preservative to impregnate into the timber even more and bed into those cells and fibres, and then it is just simply left to dry. So, a few lovely little diagrams here. You might want to screenshot this or pause and make a few notes. It is entirely up to you. But this is one method in which preservatives are added into timbers. And this is Tannolith. So this is the brand that was mentioned within that diagram, because that's where I got the diagram from, one of their resources. So again, protects from fungal and insect attacks. Construction timber is most commonly treated and left without additional pigments. So this colour that you kind of see here, this greeny colour, this is most likely a water-resistant preservative. So not only does it help to protect from fungal and insect attacks, but it can also help to make the timber more water-resistant, which means that it's less likely to rot and wear over time due to weather conditions, which again is why it's brilliant for outdoor timber. It is most commonly green, which is why tannolin, that brand that we saw earlier, or a different pigment could be added to help turn it into that nice deep, rich colour to make it look like that hardwood. And here are some examples. Pretty, 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 pretty. Okie dokie, so now we're on to our new case study, which is indoor flooring. And again, it's a type of timber. Boo! Timber's too vague. Although it's far more technical than just saying wood, which we detest. We don't like the word wood because it's not technical. Timber is technical, but let's get a bit more specific. What type of timbers do you think would be used for indoor flooring? And that's the key thing there, indoor flooring. So we know larch is used for outdoor flooring because it needs, those outdoor properties. But what would be used indoors? Pause here, have a moment, have a quick reflection, grab a revision guide if you can, or talk to people if there are people around you. Huzzah! If you said something along the lines of oak, perhaps, or if you said something along the lines of veneered timber that's been veneered with mahogany. So that's a thin layer of mahogany that's been added onto the top of maybe some form of manufactured board. But it is most commonly a hardwood that is used for indoor flooring, and there's a reason, but I'm not going to give you the reason because first I have a question. What material property needs to be enhanced to prolong the life of wood flooring? Now, this is why I'm not giving you the answer to my previous question. Why is hardwood more commonly used for indoor flooring? And that's because it's linked to this answer here. So what material property needs to be enhanced, so made better, to prolong the life of wood flooring? So have a little think. What does floor, what happens to floor every single day? What can it not avoid? Have a little think. I'm gonna give you the answer in like 2 seconds. So the answer is people, us, furniture, people walking across it, pets walking across it, people dragging bodies across it, friction. So the material property that needs to be enhanced is hardness. So that's basically friction. It's two forces that collide past each other. So I don't know if you can hear that. Rubbing my hands together. Friction. That's what the floor is coming into contact with every single day. And it's friction of a lot of variety. It's, you know, cats with like really light treading, and then there's people with like really big scuffy shoes. You know, really different levels of hardness. But that's what needs to be enhanced in order to prolong the life of wood flooring. So that's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at a specific way to enhance the hardness of a natural timber, or sorry, of a timber material. And that's this thing here, polysaccharide. Polysaccharide. Polysaccharide is a biopolymer. It is a natural substance which can be modified to provide different functions. So when we say the term biopolymer, we mean it's been made with natural or organic substances, such as cellulose or perhaps starch. A modified natural polysaccharide is impregnated into the timber. They then cure within the wood cell structure, increasing the timber's hardness, toughness, and stability. So when we say the term cure, we mean it hardens. So it hardens within the wood cell structure, increasing the timber's hardness, toughness, and stability. So that, once again, is polysaccharide. Polysaccharide. So some manufacturers claim that by using polysaccharides in softwoods and adding colour preservatives, they can make affordable but expensive looking flooring whilst also helping the environment. Now that is a really, really big claim. Not the fact that they can make affordable but expensive looking flooring, it's the helping the environment. That's a huge claim. So before you move on with the video, please do pause here. Have a little think. Think back to everything you've ever learned about environmental impact, specifically to do with timbers. How is this helpful to the environment, do you think? How can polysaccharide being added to softwoods help the environment? Pause here, have a think, a discussion, a reflection, etc. So hopefully you did pause the video and hope you had a really good think about it, because it's such a big, big question. How is this helpful? So I've got a couple ideas or a couple answers that I'd like to share with you now. So personally, I think that by including polysaccharide into softwoods, this can actually help to reduce deforestation ever so slightly. Now, I'm not saying get rid of it, I'm saying reduce it, because softwoods are far more readily available compared to hard timbers. So by being able to use more softwoods, it could perhaps reduce the amount of hardwoods that are being cut down illegally, because we can simply cut down the ones that we can get within 30 years, add a bit of colouring, add a preservative, and bing bang bosh, you've got some nice expensive flooring. Okie dokie, so next product or our case study is kitchen worktops and timber. Now I know I normally say, oh hold on, timber, boo, well, that's very vague. I'm going to ask you what material you think is used to manufacture kitchen worktops in a second. But first I've got a different question. What do you think the term engineered wood actually means? Because the timber used is classed as an engineered wood. But what does that actually mean? Have a little think. It's a natural timber or chips, grains, made into large sheets using additives such as adhesives, for example, resin or formaldehyde. So some of you might be sat there thinking, hold on a minute, that just sounds like manufactured board. You're not wrong, it is manufactured board, but engineered timbers or engineered wood is used for more high-grade products, such as kitchen worktops, and sometimes additional preservatives are added to enhance the properties and the function even more. And that's what we're going to look at right here, right now. So the material used for kitchen worktops is chipboard. We love a bit of chipboard. If you're not entirely sure what chipboard is, what it might look like, I do have a little how it's made video, which should be in the notes section of this video. So I do suggest you watch it because it's a lovely example and it's a lovely introduction as to how it's actually made. It's just good to know. Hopefully you watched that video. If not, this is what chipboard actually looks like. Literally chips of wood which have been adhered or adhesed together, bonded together using specific types of adhesive. So what are the advantages to chipboard in general? So even if you have no clue what chipboard is, none in the world, there's an image here. This gives you a bit of an idea as to what it actually looks like, what it might be made of, and also might help you to conclude to the properties you think that this chipboard might have. I will tell you the answers though in about 2 seconds. Here we go. There's quite a few answers, to be honest, because it really is a good, decent bit of timber. Let's go through them real quick. Chipboard is cheaper than most natural timbers. Chipboard is stronger than some natural timbers. Now, before I read the rest, I've said cheaper than most, stronger than some. Now, this is good exam practice because in an exam, you will often be asked what material is used for this and why. It's a very common type of question. And it's really easy to go because it's cheaper than natural timbers, or it's cheaper than timber, it's cheaper than other materials. Ugh. Unless you 100% know that it is in fact cheaper than other materials within that category, you don't state that. You say cheaper than most. So cheaper than most natural timbers. Stronger than some natural timbers. Unless you know 100%, you'd be willing to bet your whole life savings, your car, your pet on that statement, you say cheaper than most or stronger than some natural timbers. Right? Moving on. No grain means it has uniform strength. So what that means is it's not weaker in specific areas due to the actual grain. So if you think of normal natural timbers, you've got the grains that obviously moves in an upwards or direction. If you karate chop that smack bang in the middle of the board, it's more likely to split. You'll split smack in the middle. Whereas if you are holding it horizontally like this, and then you karate chop it in the middle, it's less likely to split because it's stronger when you're going against the grain. Chipboard doesn't have that because the grain is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. So that means that you can try and karate chop it anywhere and it will still have the same value of strength, which is what we call uniformed. Next one. Fire retardants can be added to the adhesive. So that means obviously that it can be made to be more fire resistant, which for a kitchen is spot on, absolutely fabulous, because kitchens are more prone to fires. And it's also an advantage because it's available in big sheets, which I know to some people might think, well, it's a bit Captain Obvious, but there's no harm in that. There's no harm in mentioning a Captain Obvious answer. Once again, YouTube, chipboard, how it's made, really like the video. So if chipboard is used because of its functional properties, how are the aesthetics enhanced? How is the appearance actually enhanced? I'll tell you. The answer is, of course, lamination. So lamination, a polymer or hard timber layer added to the surface to help enhance the aesthetics as well as function by adding an additional layer of protection, which can help to improve the hardness, toughness, can also help improve against chemicals and, again, fire retardant. So lamination. Oh, final one. Here we go. Look, we've done well. Take a break if you need to, but this is the final one. Might not be too long. So the product here is ceiling joists, and again it's timber. Too vague. What timber is most commonly used in the construction industry? So most commonly. What do you think? Of course, the answer is pine, larch, and other softwood timbers. Why? because they're cheaper than most timbers and they're more readily available compared to other timbers. A little bit of exam practice there as well. However, it's not softwood alone that is used in the construction industry, and that's what we're going to look at now. So this might be a brand new topic for some of us. We're looking at two things here. We're looking at structural composite lumber, SLC, and laminated veneer lumber, LVL. So I'm going to start with this one, structural composite lumber. The wood grain of veneers or strands is primarily orientated in the same direction. So we know that it's made from wood grain, and they are laid out in strands which are all in the same direction. Boom. It outperforms when either face-to-face or edge-loaded. It is sawn to consistent sizes. Its strength properties published on a proprietary basis by manufacturers of SCL and recognised in evaluation reports, making it reliable. So you're probably sat there going, this does not explain much. What is it? Think of it this way. If you know what MDF is, medium density fiberboard, it's like MDF, but instead of being made out of little chips or grains of timber, it's made out of strands. Strands which are overlaid one on top of the other, often in the same direction. It's also used to create billets, which are long, thick bars of timber, which are most commonly used as support systems and ceiling joists, like the one I just tried to circle in a bad colour. Here, look, all right? So billets, literally really big bars, like massive bars of timber, which you probably need a crane to lift. So this is one material enhanced material, that was a mouthful, that's used for ceiling joists. Let's go on to the other. Laminated veneer lumber, or LVL. So this is where veneers are bonded together. It's used for beams, headers, rafters, and scaffold planking. And its common thicknesses to 3/4 of an inch to 3.5 inches in thickness. Now, I know these wouldn't actually be used for ceiling joists, but I wanted to bring them in anyway because we're talking about structural composite lumber, and laminated veneer lumber is part of that category. But if you look at this lovely image here, this diagram, it's manufactured in the same way as plywood. So it's got loads of thin layers that are stacked one on top of the other, but the layers are commonly about 0.5 millimeter thick, if that. They're really, really, really thin, and then applied in opposite directions for each layer to give it that extra bit of toughness. Hold the phone. Are we still talking about material enhancement? Because this just sounds like composite materials, which is a whole different category. Very good question, and well done for asking it. Yes, we are still talking about material enhancement. So although bonding two or more different materials together are classed as composites, we are still talking specifically about timbers. So the enhancement here is adding resin to the timber, but we're also talking about lamination, as this has been used to enhance the properties of the natural timbers as well as the aesthetics. So resin and lamination are classed as material enhancement. And when I say resin, I mean adding resin to the material, to that natural timber, to improve the properties it already has, to enhance them, to make them better. Okay, that's it. These are just some CPD videos, something that you might want to watch to help improve your continued professional development, CPD. Hopefully I have these also in the comments box, not comments, info box at the bottom. If I don't, apologies, I may have forgotten to do so. Hope you learned lots. Ta-ra.